Welcome to What Works, where nonprofit leaders share real stories about what makes impact possible and their organizations thrive. I'm your host, Marla Moody, and today we're going to explore how to inspire girls in STEM and build confidence, resilience, and leadership through hands on learning. Our guest today is Shane Woods, the executive director of Girl Start. From teaching science in a classroom to leading national initiatives with STEM education and equality, Shane is a recognized leader and speaker, helping the next generation of girls see themselves as innovators. So let's dive in. Here's Shane to show us what works. Well, welcome. I'm real excited to be with you today, Shane. Before we get started, if you could just acquaint people to your voice and share a little bit about who you are, where you are, and we'll go from there.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for making space for us storytellers and getting a chance to highlight the diversity of this wonderful world that we live in. And so, my name is Shane Woods. I get the honor to lead an organization called Girl Start that was founded in 1997 by a woman named Rachel Muir. She really, as a child of a engineer, kind of saw that there's this disconnect in women pursuing um, careers in science, technology, engineering, and math in a way that I think more could. And so she wanted to have an organization that built up that courage and confidence early. So we focus on fourth through fifth grade girls um, in after school spaces as well as summer and additional opportunities throughout the community. And it's one of those things that we also try and remove barriers. So the after school club that we do in the fall and the spring for about 10 weeks each is at no cost to the girl. And she gets a chance to explore new opportunities through science, technology, engineering, and math with the each task being tied to a woman in that career. So they see a woman who's already making a difference using that kind of knowledge and skill set that they attempted in their after school activity. We definitely make sure that they hear from guest speakers that also either reflect who they are or how they show up. So, yet again, showing them that there are already women doing these things and also preparing them for the careers that have not yet been created. And really giving them that internal confidence to try something hard and to understand that it takes practice and work. And sometimes some kids get it the first time, and others of us have to practice over and over until it becomes a good muscle that we can then exercise more often. And so we have those summer experiences that also go up to eighth grade. And then our community events include things like Girl in STEM conferences, where girls in fourth through eighth grade spend a day learning a little deeper what these women in STEM are doing. And so they get a chance to rotate through different classes and opportunities. One of my favorite was walking into one of our conferences up here in North Texas. And it was a room filled with, I think, five female surveyors, and they had topographic maps and they had all the tools that they use. And the girls were just so amazed that they were outside doing work that really does help build the communities around them, and that they didn't have offices and they got to wear jeans every day and they drove trucks with hard hard hats and all of these things, and the girls were just asking such genuine questions of, "How did you know you could do this? What did you like about being outside that then translated into a career?" And so it's these kind of moments that hopefully we are establishing as an anchor experience for them to then, pursue just what their dreams are possible. And so that is what Girl Start is about. But personally, I was a middle school science teacher for 5 years in Texas, as well as getting a chance to work within the school district for over 17 years. And then I transitioned to informal science and worked for Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas for 3 years and got a chance to lead their first in the country STEM Center of Excellence, where we transformed an outdoor camp space into something that allowed K through 12 girls as well as boys to really kind of see what does it look like to try on STEM, and to then connect them to outdoors and reminding that especially kids in urban settings like Dallas that nature is everywhere, that you do still see flora and fauna that are in the countryside, if you will, and being aware that what does it look like to be a good steward of this earth. So just it's one of those things that where I have what my life has brought me to in my 49th year on this earth is really about mission alignment. I'm passionate about education, women, racial equity, and really all of that gets a chance to come out through me leading executively at Girl Start, but also some of my volunteer opportunities. So it's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to talk with you, and I look forward to exploring different ideas with you.
What a delight. I was an operations leader for North Africa, Middle East, and Central Asia. And as a woman, that had some interesting surprises. I've always been in the IT realm. Technology is where I started and stopped in many ways. And that gave me an avenue into people, especially leaders who might not have respected me as a woman, but having the skills of technology, and so I love the fact that you're helping encourage women and girls knowing that they can become anything they wanna be. Anything and the skill and the hard work, can pay off.
Yes.
I when I travel, every once in a while, I get you have inspired me so much," because of being a woman in a position that wasn't normally held. And
Yes.
so I just delight as you talk about empowering girls to know and also having that holistic view of how do you help community and how do you just embetterment
Yeah.
life in general. So love your passion and your experience with school teaching and Girl Scouts and now getting, into this whole new level. So you said you had summer projects
Mhm.
and then you do the spring um, and and fall projects. So is this a busy time of year, a slow time of year?
We're right in between. So you're catching us literally in a transition. So we kind of look at our year in a triad, if you will. So um, I'm one of those people. I didn't know people look at the year differently, but I am a person who starts and stands at January, and I look to December.
Oh,
And
okay.
so our first, few months from January to about May, if you will, is after school. So it's the spring semester, as well as we have events that are typically tied to. We have a building in Austin that has like community events that come in as well. Then we ramp up into summer. So between May and June, a little bit is a little pause as well as hiring, and then we do summer experiences. Girl Start is in Texas, California, and Boston, and then we sometimes also do additional camps in places like St. Louis, Milwaukee, and Seattle. And then after summer is where we're at right now. We're now gearing up for fall. And so, yet again, the ramping up of the back to school clubs, our after school clubs, as well as our Girl in STEM conferences. We have two conferences in the spring and two in the fall. Our fall conferences will be one in Houston and one in Boston. And then we continue, starting to plan for the spring. So, like, we kind of do a little pause in December, shut down, everybody re-energize, put their shoulders down, enjoy family or whoever, they need it to be around to be replenished, and then we gear right back up to the new year. So, we kinda have those 3 seasons.
That's wonderful. It makes me think of, and it's common with nonprofit is, there's seasons, but there's also sometimes hard to know when to start and when to stop, because it's a passion, not just a job. How do
Yes.
you identify burnout and maybe even identify it before it hits, whether with you or people on your team?
Great question. It's I always start with self, so identifying and learning what does burnout look like for me. And when I started achieving positions of leadership. So when I was at Fort Worth ISD and was the director of K-12 science for 7 years, when I was the director at, Girl Scouts camp, and now as an executive director, I realized that it was paramount that I took care of me. And so I know and recognize what that looks like. It's not sleeping. It's, um, you know, stress eating. It's kind of becoming, building up the wall of like, let me just do what I have to do in order to get through the day, and that's not what I enjoy. I enjoy the change management and thoughts and untangling the knots and seeing some of the fruition of project management. And so when I realized that I'm only operating off of survival at the very bare minimum, I realized it's time for me to um, make different changes. And so now I try and head that off. I try not to get there anymore by making sure I'm reading books that I
Mm.
choose to read, that I am spending time with family. This past holiday, I gave my family a gratitude journal. And it's something that it has prompts, and every morning you're supposed to start the day with gratitude. And then before you go to bed or sometime in the evening, you return to that gratitude. And that has really made a difference in just kind of how I go through the day. Cause sometimes I'm like, I need to write that down. That was a good thing
Yeah.
that happened today. As well as the good old self care. If I'm going to get my nails done, I'm going to get my eyebrows done. I'm going to enjoy a facial and a massage, periodically as the budget allows. And I'm going to see friends and people who fill me up. When it comes to what it looks like for my organizations that I lead, I realized that I needed to delegate to people who that's their love language, if you will, or that's how they show up. I'm not a fluffy person. I will participate in said fluffiness, but if you make me think about it, I'm not. And in my
Right.
mind, I remember one of my last CEO that I worked with at North Texas at Girl Scouts is she said, "Shane, I pay you to do the things only you can do." And so
Yes.
that is something that I carry now even with what I do is like,
Yes.
I shouldn't be doing everybody's job. I should be doing only the things that I can do, that I add. And me planning a party is not what y'all want. Um, so I have a human that is my unofficial chief of staff and slash my work wife. And she is the pulse of she kind of is that filter before it gets to me. And she can tell when morale is kind of getting prickly or people are starting to kind of burn out or their bandwidth is very thin. I also have an excellent chief program officer at Girl Start, Caitlin Wamstead, who's been with Girl Start almost 20 years. Yet again, she has the biggest team and she also gives us that insight of people are kind of feeling unappreciated. And it's not an intentional thing, but like they're just saying this. And so we came up with this thing called a glitter committee. And the glitter committee is the things that they put some shine on the things that we do as a team. They do moments once every 2 weeks of like just a 30-minute break of everybody bring your favorite mug. Or we'll remind them to do some yoga and we all listen to like a little YouTube yoga. But something in addition to that that we just did last week is we had a quiet week, which there was
Mm.
no meetings internally. If you chose to use your PTO for the entire week. If you needed to just clean up your inbox and throw away the things on your desk, if you wanted to paint your office, like that was the week to be quiet and do what you want. We weren't going to call you into a meeting. Some people took that time to actually go have like coffee with some partners. And they still did work, but it wasn't that mandatory staff meeting, one on ones, and all of that. And it seems like from the feedback that we've gotten this week, everyone came to meetings this week more focused.
Yeah.
And the meetings were more dense and focused in a good way of like, this is what I cleaned this up. I realized that we hadn't responded to this person yet. All of these ways of people realizing that it's okay to pause and Girl Start still
Yes.
carried on during that week. And also reminded some people to use the PTO that's just been stacking and get away from us. And guess what? Girl Start will be here when you come back. Your mailbox, your email box will still be there. So it's those kind of things of not only starting internally and what that looks like, and we've been doing some practices with our team for them to start understanding what burnout looks like. Because right now I need everybody on my team. It's only 15 of us. And if someone goes down in this marathon, we got to figure out how we tape her back up and get her going. But we also don't want her to not take care of herself. So it's
Yes.
those kind of things of instituting policies and practices like the quiet week to reminding people of PTO to then doing good old purse scavenger hunts that we always do and get a kick out of who has this in their purse. And then some of
Yeah.
us are like, who carries a purse nowadays? So it's just that
Eh,
good banter that you need to do.
that there's so many things. I'm just going, yes, 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 yes. Um, Shane, I love your heart, and I love the fact that you said you started with yourself. A leader sometimes thinks that sacrifice means getting whittled down to where there's nothing left in them. And that only causes harm. It causes harm in the leader, it causes harm in everybody around them, from your family to your teammates to other leaders. So I want to just underscore that. And you weren't embarrassed to say, I'm getting my nails done, I'm doing a facial. Everything is, for some people, they'd be like, "Ah, it doesn't do anything for me," but for you, it brings you back to life. So you're leading by example. There's a book called, uh, The Power of Full Engagement, FULL,
Mhm, okay.
engagement. Brilliant book. It's basically written by consultants who would work with salespeople who were used to be at the top of their game and are dealing with burnout. And just, yeah, one of the things I always remember is it was a requirement that this guy got his shoes shined once a week because
Mhm.
that gave him joy. So love that. You use the word delegation. um, Leaders sometimes have trouble with that, but you're recognizing what you're good at and what other people can really take joy in. And the quiet week, boy, that's something to underline. Just
Yeah.
um, when you think through your quiet week, you just had it. How do you see that being really adding value as you start this fall season?
For us, it's something that when I talked to Caitlin, my chief program officer, about, we laughed because we actually saw each other last week at the office. Like we just happened to kind of just see each other and waved and kind of caught up. And it was that kind of moment that we don't always have because we typically see each other in a meeting. I could just catch up. How are the kids? How are mom and dad? Those kind of things. But it's something that I think it reminds people that we know that they are individual humans who have their own needs, that we can't necessarily meet those needs. There's also things that you need to do that you don't know how to put it on your calendar. And so we didn't we want people to make remind themselves to take time to clean out your mailbox, your email box, to get rid of the flyers that you had on your desk from 2023, and why is it still sitting there? Um, and for some people, like I said, it really was about getting away from us for a while.
It's
That
beautiful.
summer is very hectic, is very demanding, especially on our programs team because they have to be with kids Monday through Friday. They have to be because it's part of our camp experience. Prepping for that week, making sure that they're at the right camp and all the logistics. And it gets real frazzled and hectic, and that we needed that time. And I think it was also important to remind them that we have to take time to just get quiet seasonally. And so I really do think it'll be something that we institute at least 2 times a year during those breaks that you kinda ask, like, how do we operate and when's our quiet seasons?
Mhm.
Because we do have those moments of let's gather, let's unpack what happened in the spring, get ready before we get ready for summer, and to truly kind of have that closure for people who like to see things end. Because there are still people
Mhm.
who like to have things that are like, "I started here and I ended here," and, like, giving them those moments of, time of reflection, which we don't always remind people to do. Because we
Yes.
also have things such as performance management and mid-year and all of that and goal setting. And like, have you remembered all the great things you've done over these past 4 months? Have you written it down? Have you recognized it? So it's those things of reminding people that it's important to take care of you as an employee, because hopefully
Yes.
you're also taking care of yourself as a non-employee outside of our walls or outside of our Zoom calls. So that's the biggest thing that I'm hoping that they understand, is that this was intentional to remind them of the individual contributor that they are, and to allow that time to kind of re-energize and shed the spring or the summer and get ready for the next season.
Mm, I love that word shed and intentional, those 2 words. That also what you're doing is you're building a healthy team that probably, has some loyalty behind it because 'cause you're showing that you care for them, not just what they do for you, but
Yeah.
also for that. And it kinda reminds me of finding good talent, finding people who are good and fit the role can be a
Mhm.
real challenge to find them and to keep them. What are some things that you've done to really be able to find good talent and to be able to keep good people?
It's it's one of those things of, I remember taking an assessment a couple of years ago that really spoke to my emotional intelligence. And I remember I took the assessment, and then someone that was a part of the entity that crafted this tool reached out to me and said, I have to talk to you. And I was like, either I broke the internet, or, you know, or there's something good he wants to share. And when we got on the call, he was like, I rarely see somebody who is this emotionally intelligent. He's like, and I had to tell you that. He was like, I don't know what has led you to this, but you've got it. He said, you've got it, what we want all leaders to have. And of course, I was very proud to hear that. I did go to medical school. I did a 2-year stint of figuring out that I didn't need to be a medical doctor in that capacity. But I will say that every round, or every opportunity as we were learning about the different parts of medicine, it was always the lead doctor that would say, "You have excellent bedside manner. I don't know where you will land in your career, but you will win awards for, like, you know how to talk to people, you know how to look them in the eye, you listen, and you appear to listen," which is also apparently a tactic that
Yes.
people don't have. And I wonder if it comes from the fact that I'm the oldest daughter. I'm the oldest granddaughter. I'm definitely a Leo sign, and so it's just that strength that's within me. Um, but I think that it's one of those things of, I know what I want peop I know what I want out of leaders. I have had bad leaders. I have worked for horrible leaders, and I've taken that as a lesson. So everything that has helped me get to this 49th year is a part of my story. I know how I want to be with people, and I know how I hope that I am appearing in their brain. Once I had that revelation of, there's unlimited yous out there, because a different you lives in everybody's mind and how they interact with you. So I'm trying to normalize, or at least
Mm,
standardize, what I think I'm leaving with these people.
yeah.
So as I have been a leader in Fort Worth ISD, Girl Scouts, and now with Girls Start, if I have the opportunity to be a part of the talent acquisition, I try and come in there in a way that does not, already when you're interviewing, it's stressful in any form or fashion. And so I try and make sure that it is comfortable, professional, in terms of, like, I don't want you just completely out of the loop, but like that we're just here to have a conversation. I need to learn about you, and I hope you're interviewing us at the same time. Are we a match in where you want to go, and hopefully helping people? And I will say that I have stopped interviews where I was like, this is not a match, but I think that this is an opportunity for me to help you get your next best, in terms of,
Mhm.
the next time you show up 5 minutes early, just to make sure you get there to the right place. make sure you follow up or that you clarify what time you need to show up. Um, if you don't have transportation, allow us to know, and then we give you that 10-minute, 15-minute grace of you had to figure out how to get here. Somebody else may have gotten you there. So I also take those opportunities to make sure that yet again that interaction is important. When I was at Girl Scouts, I yet again, like I said, my work wife, she was there at Girl Scouts, and so she was my executive assistant at that time, or she was the assistant for the camp. But I then truly kind of adopted her to be mine because it was one of those things of she had a conversation with me after I was there for about a month. She closed the door and she sat down and I said, and I called her and and she sat down and I said, I have a question for you. I said, would you be comfortable kind of being my ear to the ground? Because I can't be everywhere and everyone here passes your desk. You can kind of read them. But I need to ask you about this one person. And she was like, I've been waiting for this. And so like she knew that like after that, the way we work together, it's hard to explain. She can read my body language coming into a room and be like, Shane needs 30 minutes. Or she knows that if people are coming to me with some nonsense, don't go to Shane with that because she's gonna ask you the same questions I'm about to ask you. So if you're not ready for those questions, get ready and then go to her. So
Beautiful.
when I got the opportunity to lead Girls Start, I told her, I said, "You're coming with me." I said, "You're part of the package." She will be the part of my package in every job that I have from here on out. There is no one who understands me like her. Now, there are people from my past jobs that if I can, I will try and bring them to Girl Start or to wherever I land if if it fits. But I continue to stay in contact with a lot of people that I've worked with in the different schools and the different settings that I've had because once I've hired them, they realize that I saw potential in them. It's something that
Yes.
I think you've probably heard this that women will apply to jobs where they think they hit all of the bullet points. No, we know that sometimes our male counterparts and others, they apply because they think they can do it, and
Yep.
that's it. They just think they can do it. Now, we also know that it's unfortunate that women do have to typically prove that they have
Yes.
done it, that they have to come in with the numbers, they have to come in. I got off a call right before I joined, our conversation with a woman who had been recommended to us to help us with some PR for Girl Start. And she sent me her LinkedIn. She's like, I want you to make sure, like this is what I've done. Please check out my resume. And it took everything in me to tell her, I already know you're capable. You have a doctorate. You work at this amazing institution. You lead these departments at that institution. Lady, there is nothing you need to prove to me. And I wish I could unburden so many more women of that need to prove it, but we live in a world that is we keep hearing this word meritocracy and things like so I understand the response to a lot of that for people, and that they've earned it and that because they show up as a community that may have been marginalized, either as a woman, a person of color, disabled, a veteran, all these things. I understand why they have to do the things and why they feel like they navigate that. And I hope that they realize that I do care about it, but that's not the first thing I care about. I need
Yes.
to hear. I loved what when we met, the chemistry call. That's I can tell fairly quickly if we're going to work together.
Yeah.
And if you're not gonna work with me, you're gonna work with my team and I can tell which team member to match you up with. We know a micromanager and a micromanager go micromanage together and frolic in the minutia of the world. I am a big picture person with tactical, precision.
Yep.
So I need to know where we're going. I need to know that we have a roadmap. I'm flexible to know that also life throws curves and can you go with me on that? Or are you going to freak out and then I have to like leave you aside because I don't have time for that as an executive director. Um, so all that to say is like it's a lot of that emotional intelligence that I have that helps me with talent acquisition, as well as helping the process be more human. So like instead of all these questions, I want to know. I want to give you a case study. I want to give you some homework prior to the interview to see if you can do it. So like if we need you to work on spreadsheets, do you know how to copy and paste and summarize, and then can you tell me why you think it's important and would you have done it differently? Those kind of things versus you sitting there telling me your resume, and I'm like, I have your resume. I don't need you to walk me through your resume. I need
Yeah.
you to tell me what change you made, how you contributed to a team, and how you get out of bad situations that are going to come.
What I'm hearing you say is you like to crush the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think as women in particular, especially the more people have been knocked down, that just takes too much space in the room. So
Yeah.
to give the freedom to say, let's just keep that thing out the door and let's just show up. And I love it. Talent and just your talent and personality. And that brings that tenacity. As you were talking, you talked about roadmaps and big vision, which is what executive directors are supposed to do. How do you translate that to communicate vision to your team?
A couple of ways. I definitely have a multi-generational organization, all female, which is interesting, but we come from such diverse backgrounds, which is part of that diversity, equity, and inclusion that is important. There are different people, each of us show up differently at that table. And so each of us learn differently and need to be communicated with in our own way. And so it is trying to find that way of making sure I'm delivering the same message and translating it into different learning modalities. And not prioritizing one or the other, just kind of making sure it's delivered. Mm. And for some people, they wanna see the end, they wanna talk about the end game, like, what are we getting at the end of this, and what does success look like?
Yeah.
Others wanna know, how are we getting to that? So, like, that's what I have to make sure I deliver in any message. I have to allow, and something that I'm trying to do more intentionally is to have their voice. I've heard so many things. I think I really learned of it from our indigenous brothers and sisters of um, don't make something without me. I need to
Yes.
have a part of whatever the solution is. I need to be present. It can't be it you have to include us in any of the story that you're trying to put around us. Any solution, I have to be at the table. And so allowing them to be a part of that vision early enough that they have buy-in. Um,
Yes.
and that they can feel like they can execute and that they have the resources to execute. Um, because I also am a mama bear, so, like, I don't wanna overburden people. It's that older sister thing. It's like, I'll take the brunt, realizing that some of that I need to delegate and
Yes.
allow them to take it with me, because some of them do sometimes feel like it's that top down, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want them to worry about things that are outside of their control and their scope of what they can actually do, and so it's a fine line because I understand that people are like transparency and communication and open door policies. I will always add the pushback of, "But what are you doing with that information now that you know everything?" Because is it
Yes.
that you just simply wanted to know because you felt like we were holding something back? Or are you ready to have that hard conversation of, we're gonna have to do a reduction in force. Who do
Yeah.
we start with? What is the rubric? What is that? Do you really wanna be a part of that conversation?
Yeah.
So, like, it's those kind of things of weighing the heaviness of being a leader. How do you delegate that? When do you timing? And sometimes there is no right time. So I always know that I will not always be loved and heralded by the team, and I'm okay with that. That's I think a maturity and a wisdom that comes with leadership. Everybody's not gonna be happy. That's whether it's my
Yeah.
board, whether it's my staff. Hell, sometimes whether it's me, like hindsight is 2020. I would have done so many things differently had I known when I joined Girl Start in 2022 versus what I'm living through in 2025. But I can't
Yes.
change anything. All I can do is take all of that as a lesson and bring it forward. So communicating, It's a tango. It's a dance that
Yep.
is hard sometimes, and other days it's just like free for all, and it just flows. Um, but yeah, it's tedious.
Yes. But I think you said it well that how do you balance transparency with with discretion
Mhm,
and leading through uncertainty? And when you're looking at budget, when you're looking at performance, when you're looking at some of the things that you can't tell your team,
mhm.
right? That even maybe break your heart. Those
Yeah,
things that I can't tell you why that person isn't here anymore.
yeah,
And in a very deep way why that person isn't here anymore. And there's still the value. And so I love that idea of a tango, of a dance. And sometimes it's just woohoo, and other times it's a very scripted
mhm.
um dance. As you were talking, I have a really good friend in Hawaii, and this idea came to mind. I want to get us together and love on each other, like just to have a community of, especially of women leaders who tend to be alone in some things
Yeah,
because of that balance of transparency and discretion.
mhm.
Um, and the pressures of it. So, that just came to mind,
Well,
as we were doing
execute
it.
on that, please. I will say that some of the things that I have cherished the most in this leadership journey is when people have made intentional spaces for executive directors and leaders, because we are alone at the top of this apex. And it's
Mhm.
not, and I, as much as I can confide in Liz, my chief of staff, if you will, as much as I can confide in my chief program officer, they also can relax enough to know that I still will carry the brunt, that I will be
Yes.
at the front of this charge, taking it on head on. But it gets hard, and I am fully human in front of them as far as I'm comfortable as being
As
human with them.
appropriate, yeah.
But to your point, I also have to have that discernment of when do I let them into the, "Oh, crap, it's hitting the wall" moments. And to be able to have that and to also be able to cheer for others. I have some executive directors right now who are not worried about income. They have blown past their they are having a season of excess and joy and abundance in a good way. And we don't bring them down when we tell them like, I'm, you know, down people. I'm having to do a reduction in force. We're having to do these kind of things to downsize because we also know that they've probably had that moment and how did they get out of it, as well as
Yeah.
it's nice that they can, that we can still cheer them on with no jealousy in our heart because we want everyone to
Yes.
win. All nonprofits tend to say our goal, how we know we're successful is when we're not needed anymore. When we
Yes.
do have to close our doors because there is no need for girls to feel empowered because they are, and people know to hire them without all these resumes and all of that. But it is, I think so. That is my charge to you is do that because like anytime I've had a chance to, even if it was just a lunch or a happy hour where some entity said, "Let's get all the EDs together just so y'all can talk with no super
Yep.
agenda other than come as you are and leave with something."
Yes. Yes.
So it's needed.
Yes. I resonate very much with many things you've said. So this has been great. I want to honor our time. Um, what do you want? What would you what would you want to say to a new leader?
I'll make it even a little more personal in terms of if I could talk to Shane in 2022, I
Yes.
would tell her to trust her gut because it's spot
Mhm.
on and it has never led her astray. I would say continue to make sure you bring in people into your ecosystem that do the things very well that you can't. And so in that, also make sure you listen to the needs of your staff. Um, and lean in to those who say, "I'm here to help." Ask, "What does that help look like? And and how do they like to be reached out to when you need help? And how far in advance?" Um, but also, it's you're allowed to learn, and I think that's something that I appreciated from my board is that I was given time to learn Girl Start. I was given time to figure out what does it look like to lead this team. I was given that opportunity also in some of the other roles that I've had in my past. It's a gift that leadership
Yes.
doesn't always offer, is the time to learn your job, the time to ask the questions as basic as they are and not feel that it's a stupid question. Like, no, ask. And so that's the biggest thing is that I have been fortunate to have three supervisors that come to mind immediately that allowed me to learn my job. I didn't know how to be an executive director until of Girl Start until probably my 2nd year in, maybe
Mhm.
18 months in. I was like, "I got this." When I was executive or when I was the director of K-12 science in Fort Worth, I would say it took about a year and a half. And then after that, I was good. I knew when things were gonna come, so because I had seen enough seasons. I knew who I could rely on. I knew some things that could be automated, if you will, and just become, muscle memory. Um, but I was also confident within. I will not. I don't say that I have imposter syndrome. I have the issue of perfectionism, and so it's
Yes.
not that I don't think I'm enough. I know that I have a high standard and I want to deliver, and I have to remind myself that sometimes my good is another person's excellence, and so I have to
Yes.
remind myself to recalibrate. So, I walk in a room thinking I'm the bride that sees the wedding for everything that's missing versus going in thinking, "I shouldn't be the center of attention." No, I'm gonna be at the center of attention. "But why is the DJ playing the wrong song? That's not the color flower I asked for." No. Did the guest have a great time? Does your
Yes.
groom see you and start to cry? That's the important thing. And so that's what I have to remind myself of. It's okay to learn on the job, but we also have to create cultures that allow people to learn on the job.
Yes. Love it. Perfectionism is not required.
No, gotta cut that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, a few things you've said that I'm writing some curriculum around. One is perfectionism is not required because it's can be the killer of accomplishment. The other thing, and you've mentioned it kind of at the beginning of that, even that quiet week of decluttering and
Mhm,
just the idea, I'm calling it buckets of just what does it look like to declutter your mind. And a lot of times decluttering your mind is also decluttering your environment,
mhm.
looking at your relationships, looking at what needs to go, what needs to be put up on a shelf in an honored spot, just we misprioritize. So
Yes.
I'm excited. I will, and this is my word to you is that within 2 weeks I'm going to start up a group of women. I'm going to start with women. Maybe we'll have 2 groups, one for leaders and one specifically for women, because I think we might have some uniquenesses of being mama bears,
Mhm.
that we can come together and really learn together. I
I
was
would love
talking
that.
to someone that I'm going to be helping develop her team, and she was thrown into the deep end, and I was grabbing coffee the same time with another friend, and he's like, "I'm gonna meet with her every month." He's like, "'Cause no one once you're in the job, no one teaches you anything." And I'm
No.
like, "I'm gonna change that. I wanna change it to where leaders have support."
Mhm. We need
So,
it. We need it.
yes. So that's my word to you. Um, thank you so much. This is sweet. I know it's not gonna be our last conversation.
It better not be. I will hear from you soon, but thank you yet again for making space and for doing what you do and for bringing this kind of clarity to the earth. So thank you.
You're welcome.